Alright, so it's Friday, and as promised, here is an update video on my currently unnamed blaster, but as you guys saw, it's the Stryfe with a Stampede back. Now, before I pick it up and go over it, I want to just give you a little bit of background on the blaster. Coop was doing one of the Stryfe mods, and this is a month or two ago. He was doing a modification on one of the Stryfes, and this is when I was still kind of out of Nerf. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And he was doing a firing demo of it, and he was pulling the trigger like really, really fast because he had it running on 16 volts, so it was going like bam, 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 bam. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I want to make one. So this is kind of what's getting me back into the community. Over my break, I'd been doing a lot of different electrical circuit work on various different hobbies, and I'd been doing costuming hobbies and just a lot of different stuff. So when he made his Stryfly, I was like, that's awesome. I like how it's incorporating two different shells together, and I wanted to do something just like that. But I wanted to bring to bear all the things I'd learned in my other hobbies and a more electrical side as well. So this is going to result in what I'm showing you now. So the goal of saying there was going to be an update this Friday was I wanted to at least have the blaster painted, but obviously that didn't happen. And the reason for that is because of all the different things that I'm putting in it, which I'm going to go over in a moment. I'm waiting unexpectedly long amounts of time for all the parts to come in, and until everything is installed in the shell, I can't paint it, because I would paint it and then I'd have to cut more holes in it and install stuff, and then I'd have to paint it again and again and again, and it would just get really messy. So it's currently unpainted. Excuse me, but it's obviously a Stryfe with a Stampede backing. And then I'm going to pull the camera in a little closer to show you this in detail later, but I'll show you now. This is a plastic that is used a lot in cosplay called Wonderflex. It's super flexible. I think I have a little bit of it around here. I do. It's a very flexible plastic, but when you heat it, it becomes even more flexible. And then whatever shape you bend it into, it hardens. So it's really, really nice as for application in this purpose, because when I'm blending the two shells together, if I got one piece of plastic that runs over both of them, obviously that's going to be, it's going to look really nice after it's painted. And I have the same thing on both sides. So it's not just, you know, sanded epoxy putty, which looks really nice, and I went up to like 250 grit sandpaper or 220. So all the sanding on this is very, very nice, and I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, these are the two places where that's a new material. And then I want to go over the inside, because this is also a bunch of new stuff. This white material that you're seeing in here, one of the goals of this blaster was to make it as cleanly as possible, both on the inside and the outside. So obviously there's not a lot of stuff in here yet, so it's not defined as clean yet because it's not done. But this is, and I'm going to pull it down, called Smooth Cast 65D, which is essentially an epoxy plastic, two-part epoxy plastic that when you mix it together remains pourable for about 20 minutes, and then it hardens. So this shell, for all intents and purposes, is one piece of plastic now, because of when you pour this in, it acts as an adhesive and also as, I'm lacking terminology, but it's basically a better equivalent of epoxy putty because it's a lot stronger, it doesn't flake, and it's lighter too, which is kind of nice. So obviously I have it in the handle, I have it filled in this space here. And on the other side of the shell, I'm not done with this shell yet, on the other side I have it filled in here as well, and I'm actually even going to put in a little more. This is the bonding agent with, this is a different kind of plastic up here called Sintra, just as a gap filler. But this is used as a bonding agent here, just to make sure the shell is really nice and stable, and there's no screws through this shell. It's just this epoxy, and I mean, it's amazing. I love it. So that's that. Then a bunch of the other places you see epoxy putty, which again has been sanded quite heavily, so I'm not worried about it. And as you've probably noticed, there's also a few cutouts in the shell. I want to go over this one first. This is going to have a voltmeter in it, which looks like this. This one is, of course, broken because it does not have reverse polarity protection, and I hooked it up to reverse polarity, and it went poof, and puddle of smoke and broken electronics, but that's alright. I've got another one on order. But that's going to go right in there, and I'm going to have it bonded to the shell using epoxy putty, and it's going to look really nice. And what that's going to be hooked up to, of course I dropped it, is the 4 ultrafires, or truss fires rather, that's going to run the Stryfe. And for those of you that don't know, they are AA sized batteries. They're AA sized batteries that emit 3.7 volts instead of the typical 1.5, so they have a crazy amount of push. So I don't have to redo any of the battery compartment area, I just have to put in 4 ultrafires. So it's going to be running on 16 volts roughly, and the voltmeter will tell me, is it necessary? No. But it's cool to be like, oh, right now I'm on 16 volts, and when it drops I'll be like, I'm on 14 volts, now I need to change my batteries, so that's kind of cool. The second thing I'm going to show you in a minute is going to be an ammo counter, and that's what this cutout is for up here. I had been debating where I wanted to put it. I thought about putting it on the inside of this area for a while, but you know, it was just going to be difficult to read, kind of. It would have been like really nice, like the whole halo thing, to put it there, but back here is fine as well. So it's going to be a double-digit 7 LED display. And actually, I'm just going to move you over here now, because it's much cooler to see it than for me to just kind of explain it. So this was a kit that I bought, and I built the board and soldered everything together and all that jazz. But there's something wrong with the processor, I don't know what, but the board only counts up. So if I go ahead and attach it here, and I just have all this rigged up, by alligator clips, but that's alright. There's a variety of buttons here, so if I scroll through, I can change the number. And sorry, my camera hand is being a little shaky right now. But the problem is, if I cycle through, it won't change the first digit. It'll just change 1 digit at a time, which obviously is useless as an ammo counter, and I want it to count down. So I emailed the company, and they're sending me another one, and I guess I'll try again. But this board is going to go in the back here, and then the display will be right there, and bonded in nicely, obviously. I just want to give you a little view at how clean most of the sanding is. It's super smooth. Pull back a little bit. These 3 holes are the same on both sides. Those are going to be for LED placements. I'm going to have some more of those strewn throughout the Stryfe instead of just the Stampede. I just haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. So that's that. This is turning into a really long video, but that's okay. So everything in the blaster is going to be run on truss fires. There's going to be the 4 up here for the main Stryfe, and I don't want to pull power from those to power anything else because I want all of that to go to the main Stryfe other than the voltmeter. So there's going to be 3 more truss fires back here because the ammo counter is going to run on 12 volts, and then I'll just use one of those truss fires to power the LEDs. And then I'm also going to have 2 flashlight LEDs up here eventually to shine outwards, so that'll be cool. Little more background on the blaster. For those of you that don't know, Coop and I are really good friends, and he came down here for Apocalypse like 2 years ago, and we modded together, and it was fantastic. But he's building one of these as well, and it's going to be different but kind of the same, because after he built the Stryfly, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to build this. And then I sent him a picture before I had any of the sanding, like, really crudely done. He was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to build one, too. Then he was like, no, I'm not going to build one. And then I convinced him to. And then he was like, yay, now I'm going to build one. So now we're building them together. His is going to be very different. But it's the same principle because it's the Stryfe backed with the Stampede shell. So it's going to be kind of cool, the comparison between them, because We're planning on finishing them basically at the same time. Mine's going to be done in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and so is his. And we're going to throw the videos up at the same time, so it's like, here's my interpretation, here's his interpretation. So that's something kind of cool to look out for. For what it's worth, just thought you'd like to know. Because a lot of people have been commenting like, oh, I stole this idea from Coop. No, I didn't. Just to clear that up. But it's a fun project. I highly suggest anybody with the means to go out and do it. Maybe not the way I did it, because I'm throwing way too much money into it with the ammo counter and the voltmeter and all the LEDs and everything else, but it should be pretty cool when it's done. I'm pretty psyched. Thanks for watching. See ya.